Good afternoon to all our participants around the world. Thank you for joining us today for the Project Navigator webinar on mini-grids. My name is Simon Benarraz, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar on the new guidelines for mini-grid projects. Before we begin, we would like to share a quick note that IRENA does not endorse or recommend specific product or services shared within its webinar series. If you are interested in finding out about future webinars offered through the IRENA Project Navigator webinar series, or are interested to learn about renewable energy project development, please visit the IRENA Project Navigator website www.irena.org/navigator. For today's webinar, we have two options for listening in. You may connect by computer by selecting mic and speakers, or by phone by selecting the telephone option in the right-hand panel. Should you face any technical difficulty during the webinar, please contact the GoToWebinar help desk at the number provided on your screen. Throughout the webinar, we will be asking for your feedback in order to know your opinion and help us improve our webinar series. When this happens, you will see questions pop up on your screen, and you will simply need to select your choice. We would also like to encourage everyone to participate in today's session by asking questions. To do so, simply select Questions panel in the right-hand bar and enter your question with a note of who you would like the question directed to. We will be collecting questions throughout the webinar and answering them at the end of the webinar. If you would like to watch this webinar again or share it with a friend, we will have a full recording available on the webinar website, as well on the IRENA YouTube channel, IRENA.org on YouTube. Now, we are about to start the presentation, and we will first introduce the speakers of today. The first speaker is Mr. Roland Rush. Roland Rush is a Senior Program Officer, Renewable Energy Market and Technology Dialogue at the International Renewable Energy Agency, IRENA. He worked for 15 years in the oil and gas and utility industry as General Manager Power and Head of Division. Preceding that, he worked as an energy market consultant for large international consulting companies. Our second speaker will be Mr. Salvatore Vinci. Mr. Salvatore Vinci is the Deputy Head of IRENA's Policy Unit. Since joining IRENA in 2010, he has been managing projects related to policy to promote renewable energy in both developed and developing markets, and is the coordinator of the International Off-Grid Renewable Energy Conference, IREC. Before joining IRENA, Salvatore Vinci worked as an energy expert. I am Simon Benarraz. I'm an IRENA analyst working on the Project Navigator. I have experience in project development, business development, and I'm available to answer your questions during the webinar and afterwards. The fourth speaker will be Carlos Ruiz. Carlos Ruiz is a junior professional associate at IRENA. Carlos has been working on the Project Navigator for the last 3 years, developing technical guidelines for several renewable energy technologies. Before joining IRENA, he worked in Spain, working on solar projects. Today we have three distinguished panelists. The first one is Mr. Marcus Wiman, the Executive Director of the Alliance for Rural Electrification, ARE, responsible for the management and direction of the organization, as well as for the relationship management with partners and developing organizations and institutions. Before Marcus joined ARE in 2013, Marcus established and led representation office in Brussels for Verbundsnetzgas and EWEAG and the International Association of Gas and Oil Producers. Our second guest panelist will be Katrina Pieli. Katrina is a senior energy advisor at the US Agency for International Development, USAID, for Power Africa, and is the lead for the Beyond the Grid initiative that she will present in this webinar, focusing on off-grid energy access, small-scale renewable energy, and energy efficiency with a goal of 30,000 new megawatts and 60 million new household and business connection in sub-Saharan Africa throughout accelerating investment in household solar and mini-grids. Our last guest panelist will be Jules Smets. Jules Smets is a senior consultant at DNVGL Energy, working on energy storage and different power generation technology. He has expertise in project modeling and feasibility study. Before we start the presentation on mini-grids, we would like to give you a brief overview of IRENA, and this will serve as an introduction for the challenge of mini-grids. IRENA is an international organization created to promote the widespread adoption of sustainable use of all forms of renewable energy worldwide. Its mission is to serve as a network hub, an advisory resource, and an authoritative, unified, and global voice for renewable energy. Its scope is all renewable energy sources that are produced in a sustainable manner. To date, IRENA has 150 members throughout the world, with more than 30 states currently in accessions. I will now hand the floor to Mr. Salvatore Vinci, who will speak about policy and regulation for renewable energy mini-grids.
Yes, hello everybody. Since 2012, IRENA has organized 3 editions of the International Off-Grid Renewable Energy Conference. The first was held in Accra, in cooperation with the IRENA and the Alliance for Electrification. The second one in Manila, in cooperation with the Asian Development Bank and ARE. And the third one in Nairobi, in cooperation with the Kenyan government and ARE. The conference focuses on key challenges and solutions for the acceleration of standalone and mini-grid systems. All documents regarding the 3 editions of the conference, including the 3 outcome papers, are available on the website. But a key aspect that emerged and that was highlighted in all IREC editions was the consensus on the crucial role that the private sector will play together with the public sector, as well as the importance of enabling policies and regulation to support mini-grid development. Building on the outcome on this discussion and to support policy making in the mini-grid area, IRENA has developed the report Policies and Regulation for Private Sector Renewable Energy Mini-Grid. The report is based on diverse case studies and analyzes general and technology-specific policies and regulations needed to scale up private sector mini-grid development. The report focuses on 4 main aspects: legal and licensing provisions, cost recovery and tariff regulations, risk of main grid arrivals, and access to finance. The report can be downloaded from the IRENA website, but in this presentation I would like to briefly highlight some of the key messages. Next slide, please. In some countries, there is no legal framework that allows private firms to generate, distribute, and sell electricity to rural consumers. In some cases, we have seen that the sector has grown somehow under the radar, but this is not sustainable. Of course, there is not one right legal and licensing framework, but general design principle can be drawn from global experience. For example, clear licensing and regulatory guidelines tailored to mini-grid are essential. This information should be easily available. For example, through dedicated mini-grid information portals. In the report we mentioned Tanzania, for example, or up-to-date policy guide. In the report we mentioned the mini-grid licensing guide that the Kenyan government prepared together with GIZ. A common approach is to establish a single window facility hosted at a rural electrification agency or similar body. Streamline regulatory requirement. The cost of compliance with regulatory requirement, for example, for obtaining the necessary licenses and permits, need to be affordable, while ensuring that only reliable actors are present. A segmented approach is increasingly common. For example, we mentioned countries that categorize mini-grid according to large, medium, small, and very small size, each with tailored regulatory requirements. Additionally, some requirements can be simplified and standardized for projects that are known to have low or similar impact. Next slide, please. Tariff regulation need to be designed to allow viability and sustainability of mini-grid. In a number of countries, national uniform tariffs are applied, which are often too low to allow cost recovery without substantial financial support. However, we have seen that the traditional approach of uniform national tariff is paving the way for differentiated tariffs between main and mini-grid. For private sector mini-grid, one approach is to allow mini-grid tariff to be high enough to cover their cost and be structured to reflect current spending on energy. A tailored approach to tariff regulation is increasingly followed. Small-scale systems, for example under 100 kilowatts, are being exempted from tariff regulation, though communities can appeal in case of dispute over tariffs. Large-scale systems are generally subject to tariff regulations. In this case, common approaches are tariff caps or project-by-project approval. However, the tariff determination approach should be standardized as far as possible and well-defined to ensure systematic assessment and approval by regulators. Next slide, please. A key risk for mini-grid developers is the uncertainty regarding grid extension. A wide range of policy and regulatory options are available to address this risk. Rural electrification plans could provide valuable market information, including visibility to sector stakeholders on how the government foresees the achievement of universal access and what role of grid solution, both standalone and mini-grid, will play. Efforts are underway in several countries, but challenges are well known regarding grid extension plan, including coordination issues, uncertainty in funding for rural electrification, and the risk of community backlash. On arrival on the main grid, interconnections as well as compensation mechanisms are available and can be deployed. A mini-grid operator, for example, could transform into an independent power producer or into a power distributor. The operator may also be compensated for the stranded assets. The success of interconnection or compensation mechanism depend on the developers having clarity on certain elements beforehand, such as tariffs and depreciation scenarios. It's very difficult that a private sector or any investor to invest in a mini-grid without knowing what happens when the main grid arrives. Next slide, please. The final slide is on the importance of access to finance. Mini-grid finance needs are diverse and depend on several factors, including technology, size, development stage, etc. What we have seen is that there is a mismatch between available financing product and mini-grid project needs. If you speak with project developer, they will say that there is no funding opportunities or not enough. If you speak with financing institutions, they will say that funding opportunities are available, but there is a lack of good projects. This raises the importance of dedicated product as well as of information regarding available finance opportunities. In this sense, IRENA's platform, such as the Sustainable Energy Marketplace or the Project Navigator that we are going to discuss today, aim to fill these gaps. Public financial support needs to be designed to ensure sustainability and need to be complemented by private and commercial financing through innovative models, including public-private partnership. In the report, we mentioned some examples that have proven to be successful. Technical assistance and capacity building are central in all sectors, including within financing institutions. Dedicated tools are needed to identify skills needs and to meet those. Finally, my final message that is also included in the report is on the crucial role of de-risking tools, such as loan or risk guarantees, foreign exchange risk hedging, and other measures which have proved to be very useful to facilitate private sector investment. This was my last slide. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Salvatore Vinci, for your excellent presentation of the policy and regulation for the deployment of renewable energy mini grid. I think one of your message that there is a need for more tools that support those project development phases. And this is an excellent link with our, let's say, second part of our webinar, which is supporting project development with the Project Navigator. And my colleague, Mr. Roland Roche, Senior Program Officer, will now present the context and the platform IRENA Project Navigator.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thanks for the introduction, Simon. My name is Roland Roche. I lead since about 4 years the IRENA Project Navigator activities. We started about 4 years ago to solve the renewable energy project development challenges. The reason was that IRENA member countries called IRENA to support them, to strengthen the capacities and to share the knowledge on how to develop renewable energy projects. Most countries know that they have the renewable energy potentials. They are aware of the low costs of renewable energies, but there are still strong challenges and lacks to develop renewable energy projects and to achieve the desired deployment of renewable energy projects. The conditions are inherent to certain countries, regions, and translate into high costs and financial risks related to some renewable energy project development as a challenge. Stakeholders involved in a project often lack the know-how to complete a bankable project proposal, and the IRENA Project Navigator platform exactly helps and provides the help to develop a renewable energy project proposal to people that have not really the experience in developing a renewable energy project. Coming from a world with more centralized projects, energy projects, the knowledge in how to develop a renewable energy project, how to develop a project in general, and how to get it financed is exactly what the Project Navigator tries to achieve. This leads to a situation that with the Project Navigator, funds can be secured and renewable energy can be financed, and we see a bigger success in financing and preparing proposals for the right renewable energy projects. The IRENA Project Navigator aims to strengthen the project development base, enhance the quality of proposals, and increases their bankability, attracting better financing conditions. The IRENA Project Navigator is not the only tool that IRENA has, or not the only platform that IRENA has to develop renewable energy projects. We have also the Global Atlas in the IRENA portfolio that supports the assessing the renewable energy, the existing renewable energy resources. We have, as explained, the Project Navigator to prepare bankable proposals and to have a guideline in how to develop renewable energy projects. We have in the IRENA portfolio the Sustainable Energy Marketplace that acts as a tool that helps to matchmake the idea, the project proposal with the financing and the available financing institution to finance renewable energy projects. But IRENA is also assisting the IRENA ADFD, the Abu Dhabi Fund for Development, to finance the implementation of renewable energy projects on the ground. Further information on renewable energy project development, but about renewable energies in general, also information about costing and state-of-the-art technologies and on innovation in the field of renewable energies you find on the IRENA resource. The IRENA Project Navigator platform basically started to prepare guidelines for the development of all kinds of renewable energy projects. We, in the early stage of creating these guidelines, we found out that a handbook or a written guideline is not the best approach to support project developers. That's why we have chosen the approach to have a platform which provides all the information needed for learning about renewable energy project development, but also the tools and templates, checklists, financial models you need to start the project yourself are available on the IRENA Project Navigator. Meanwhile, you can access the IRENA Project Navigator platform everywhere. You can use it on your computer, on tablets, but also on your handy, wherever you need it, on the ground to use certain tools of the IRENA Project Navigator to check certain things about assessing a site and using the tool efficiently everywhere, from checking out a site to develop further your project idea to, let's say, developing and preparing a proposal which can be successfully financed by financing institutions. A list of potential parties that can finance your renewable energy project you can find on the Financial Navigator. There you find multiple funds that fund renewable energy projects worldwide. This is a very handy tool that supports the financing of renewable energy projects. But I also mentioned earlier we have the Sustainable Energy Marketplace, which helps really to matchmake renewable energy project proposals directly with financing institutions, and also the Abu Dhabi Fund for Development financing proposals directly. I hand now back to my colleague Simon Ben Marasseh, who will kind of explain you more details about the Project Navigator.
So thank you, Roland, for passing the mic. Just a quick recap of the main feature of Project Navigator before my colleague Carlos give you an overview on the mini-grids technical concept guideline. The first feature you will find on a platform is what we call the learning section. The learning section basically provides you with the required information, guidance, tools and templates that you can mobilize in your specific project. On the first part, you will have a general approach on how project development is carried on, with the clear development process, some key actions, control questions, and some templates that we have collected from different stakeholders, and also that we have for some time curated. The main part, and I really encourage everyone today to access the learning section, is what we call the technical concept guideline. This is a huge repository of information that will help you to understand what are the issues that you need to solve when you are developing a mini-grid project. You will find, for example, information about land and resource assessment, information about different technology, selection and sizing to be able to have the optimal design. Also a discussion on all the major contractual aspects regarding land, construction, operation, and so on. And you will find as well some lessons learned from previous projects. And some of our colleagues today, panelists, will also present you some case studies from the field. And as Roland mentioned, you have a search engine to find those information quickly, so to use it once you need it. The second feature is the interactive workspace. So this is something you can create once you have login. I want to remind that Navigator is accessible free of charge, and you can create your private workspace where you will find a sum of very useful tools that will help you to phase and to track the progress of your project. Again, also very interactive aspect, so you can really look at how to maximize your activities for project development. The third feature, also very important, what we call the financial navigator, is an online search engine to find the dedicated financing instrument that will be that can finance your project. And as Mr. Roche mentioned, you can also link this search engine with one of our platforms that basically provide this link, the Sustainable Energy Marketplace. So today, my colleague Carlos Ruiz will present you what we have come up in the technical concept guideline for mini-grids. So if you access the platform, you will access an area where you will find guidance, so a lot of information from return from past project and experiences from developers on how to carry out certain project development activities. For example, looking at economical and financial analysis, you will find a summary for information, and as well, accessible on the right side, a quick access to a toolkit, whether it's a checklist, a template, or we will see it also afterward, a project evaluation model that helps you to prepare your project proposal. So this is a bit, in summary, the online platform that you will find at www.irena.org/navigator. And I will now hand the mic to my colleague Carlos Ruiz, who will present you the technical concept guideline for mini-grids.
Thank you, Simon. Hello to our audience. My name is Carlos Ruiz, and as Simon mentioned, I will give you a brief overview of our new technical guidelines for mini-grid projects. Just as our previous guidelines, what we did was take the development process of a mini-grid project and broken it down into the standard Project Navigator project development process that we developed. This process is comprised of 9 phases, which I will now go through. And yeah, so I will start with the first phase, which is identification. During this stage, it is so first it is critical to evaluate whether mini-grid deployment is the ideal solution to serve the energy, the economic, the social needs of a certain site or community. It is important to keep in mind that there could be other alternative solutions. So this could be expanding the grid, or maybe just installing standalone systems. In order to ensure that the mini-grid will meet the needs of the users, the goals and applications required by the communities should align with the type of mini-grid that's going to be developed. So some of these goals could be system reliability, emissions reduction, or even financial payback. One of the most important things during this phase is to set project expectations and project goals in a manner that can be tracked and validated. And for this purpose, some of the key metrics for project performance include quantitative forecasts of social impacts, energy security and resilience criteria, offset of carbon and other pollutants, and system cost tracking metrics. Finally, once you set these goals and expectations, one should identify the type of mini-grid required based on the needs of the community. So for the purpose of these guidelines, we group the solutions, mini-grid solutions, into 3 categories. So autonomous mini-grids is the first one, which is basically a mini-grid that is not connected to the main grid. Resilient mini-grids for facilities with high energy security needs, and advanced mini-grids, which basically focus on achieving high efficiency and reliability standards. So the next phase is the screening phase. During this phase, the developer mainly focuses on identifying key criteria and activities that might have significant impact on the different project alternatives that are being evaluated. The primary reason for this is for the developer to get a feel of how feasible a given project alternative is. This can be achieved by gathering information on as many aspects of the project as possible, including the customer needs, the site resource and customer data, as well as potential risks. Identifying and working with key stakeholders is also a very important factor during this phase. It is important for the developer to compile a list of the most relevant stakeholders and outline their roles and clarify and solicit engagement. Other things that developers should keep in mind during this phase are the local legislation, the life cycle cost of assets, the level of commercialization of technologies and vendors, the maintenance requirements, and if there's support infrastructure available in the area where the project will be developed. Mini-grid projects could fail if the planning has failed in terms of technology, finance, or in commercial terms. So to implement a successful mini-grid, developers should first lay out the goals and planned applications, and then, according to this, characterize the mini-grid requirements. The next phase is the assessment phase. The objective of this phase is basically to assess feasible alternatives and evaluate the potential benefits of different project options. Most mini-grid projects deploy 2 or more generation technologies, sometimes with storage. The choice of the technology combinations will depend on the balance among financial, reliability, sustainability, and self-generation goals that the project developer pursues. Different models can be deployed depending on the context or the situations, since factors such as the physical environment, the socioeconomic circumstances, and policy and regulatory environment can differ from location to location. During this phase, the developer also can establish the baseline energy consumption, and this helps determine the needs of a community or a set of customers. The baseline basically quantifies critical and non-critical loads to evaluate how they can be met and serve as a benchmark for energy saving goals. The selection of an appropriate mini-grid design and the optimal sizing of generation and storage assets based on the consumption will be among the primary decision points for the project developer. A proper technical assessment of a mini-grid site should consider various factors such as customer profiles, end-use energy consumption, renewable resource potential, the existing energy delivery infrastructure, land characteristics, and regulatory environment. Once we've assessed the project, we move on to selection. This is basically selecting the most promising project alternative that we have, and at this point, developers should rank their options according to the assessment we just made and select the most promising one. The project developer evaluates potential options on both qualitative and quantitative metrics, and also based on the risks. A comparative scoring methodology may be developed by setting different weighing factors for individual performance criteria, and these criteria may include operational aspects, financial aspects such as the net present value, the return on investment, and the payback period, reliability of a project, and other qualitative criteria such as the critical infrastructure customers, anchor energy users, viability gap funding, and financing sources. The next phase is pre-development. During this stage, the developer basically prepares for detailed design, financing, and construction of the mini-grid system. Some of the key actions in this phase include the evaluation of suitable technologies for generation, for storage, for monitoring, and for control. Also for operational and site constraints pertaining to the selected technologies, and also an evaluation of the preliminary costs and technical specification sheets provided by the different vendors. The performance of different technologies, components, and interactions should be modeled, including historical and projected customer loads, both thermal and electric, renewable production profiles and energy yield estimates, utility tariffs, and interconnection and operational regulations. This should help the developer come up with a detailed design and operational guidelines. Performing this should also help to come up with a preliminary financial and economic analysis, and this is a critical part of this stage. During this pre-development phase, the developer should also start the work to acquire the necessary permits, licenses, and authorizations to develop the project and to be able to move on to the next stage, which is the development phase. The development phase is probably the most critical phase in the whole process. In this phase, requirements and activities are finalized in order to approach the financial close of the project with the investors and lenders. And this means that the decisions that we will make in this phase will define the future of the project. Some of the things that should be covered in this phase and that we cover in our guidelines are bankability requirements, contracting approaches for major procurement and construction contracts, financing alternatives, contractual agreement guidelines, financial modeling guidelines, and project risk mitigation. Some of the key tasks required to develop a bankable project are finalizing and executing the pending studies and obtaining the pending permits, finalizing contractual arrangements for construction with the engineering and construction contractors and with the technology vendors and suppliers, coordination for technical and financial due diligence with independent assessment firms. This will be for the financiers. Well, it is very important to select the right contracting approach and financing strategy. The developer should take the time to review the eligibility criteria and prepare to apply for incentives for viability gap funding if possible. This is also the point where a comprehensive financial model that includes the cost and the warranties is developed and validated with the financing parties. And finally, a risk management plan should be prepared in order to obtain the financing for the project at a reasonable cost. This phase will conclude with the financial investment decision, and this will give a green light for the execution of the project. So after the developer obtains the necessary funds to start executing the project, the construction can start. The construction of a mini-grid system comprises several subsystems, which can include generation, storage, and control systems, also monitoring. So the specifics of the phase can really vary widely depending on the type and the location of a mini-grid. It could be, for example, an autonomous mini-grid in a remote site, or it could be a resilient or an advanced mini-grid in a more highly populated area with a more diverse site. In either case, it is very important to hire experienced developers which employ a high level of quality control, and this is essential for the successful execution of the project. Needless to say, executing this construction on time and on budget is key to reach the financial target and meet the investors' expectations. After the completion of the construction, the individual assets such as generation, storage, automation, and control assets should be tested and commissioned. After the plant is commissioned, or the mini-grid is commissioned, we move on to operation and maintenance. And in terms of developing the project, this is also quite diverse, as each individual subsystem has its own operation and maintenance procedures. But basically, O&M practices involving periodic maintenance and operating procedures usually involve a cost, and this should be budgeted in the financial model. If the O&M procedures are followed properly, then they will result in the achievement and preservation of the contractually defined standards, and these usually include uptime, availability, and outage response. Audits may and should be conducted by a third party to ensure the compliance with contract terms for the operational performance. Finally, the O&M procedures should be consistently verified. Yeah, they should be consistently verified as part of a regularly occurring audit for mini-grid availability, reliability, and other contractually required performance characteristics. And finally comes decommissioning. So decommissioning also differs fundamentally from the decommissioning of a centralized resource, like a single power plant. Mini-grids are, as I said, made up of distributed energy sources and other assets that are modular in their structure. So the lifetime of the mini-grid is not really limited to the lifetime of a single component of subsystem, and this should be taken into account. Additional information on the decommissioning for the different renewable energy technologies is available on the Project Navigator on our other set of guidelines. And yeah, so this basically marks the end of my presentation. I would like to thank you for your attention and just briefly remind you that this was just a very small introduction to our guidelines for mini-grid projects. And I would like to ask you to make sure to check out the guidelines on the platform. And there you will find more detailed information as well as relevant tools, which my colleague Simon will now talk about.
Thank you, Carlos, for this overview, brief overview of the guidelines we are providing on the IRENA Project Navigator platform. So as Carlos said, please register to our platform to access the full extent of the guidance we provide to look at really what consists of our bankable mini-grid project. I wanted to give you also a flavor of what kind of tools you will find in our platform, which are supporting this idea of developing a bankable mini-grid project. I think when we approach stakeholders, local developers, and so on, the first tools that come into mind is how to evaluate a project and to perform certain simulation to understand the link between system performance and economic and financial returns. So this is something that is already accessible on our platform, but is essentially a project evaluation model. So it's a tool based on Excel, so very easy to access and use, where you will be able to input certain parameters for your project, and I think I can already answer some of your questions that will pop up, but you can also look at different project scenarios and look at how they result in different financial returns, IRR, and other financial ratios. So the model is based on a static simulation on an hourly basis of all renewable energy generations systems, including storage and fossil fueled backup. Also can be powered by different fuel like natural gas, diesel, biodiesel, or biomass. But essentially, you will build your system, and then you will be able to perform a simulation on an hourly basis for 25 years, for example, for a 25 years project, and look at how it translates into financial performance. So the model is based on a merit order production. So the model will first start to look at renewable energy generation, then look at how it integrates with backup generations and storage to be able to provide the objectives parameters or outcome of the mini-grid project. So I encourage you to look at it. So basically it's combined of two sections. One will address performance performance outcome of your design, and the second one, it will translate those technical information into a simplified cash flow model, which will help you to work toward the bankable financial model that was outlined in Carlos' presentation. So also, just we want you to be as much as easy as possible. So it's available also for people who want to have a look at, for example, what are the gaps, for example, in your design versus the demand of the specific community. So you will see in a visual way, for example, throughout a typical year, what are the demand that is not met, and how the gaps can be filled up by certain generations. So this is a tool that helps developers understand the relationship between performance and returns, economic and financial returns. We have also other tools available, and I think those tools support what Carlos Ruiz mentioned about identifying the opportunity, evaluating and screening the different options, and at the end selecting. So in our guidelines, online guidelines, you will find a lot of tools. For example, on the upper part, you will find a screening tool, so that helps you to on different objective criteria to make a choice between different project alternatives. And also we provide a risk management plans which help you to outline what are the major risks, and we provide certain examples to help you in this and prepare the discussion with the investors and financiers, and help you to understand whether those risks and the mitigation measure that you will propose will be convincing when you will be in front of an investors and or a financier. So those are the tools you can download. They are not something proprietary. You can access them, you can use them for yourself, and they can help you to build your bankable proposal. So this is the conclusion for the first, let's say, section of the webinar, where we present the technical guidelines. We are very happy to be joined today by three distinguished guest panelists. We will start with our first panelist, which is Mr. Marcus Wiemann from IRENA.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. This is Marcus Wiemann from IRENA. Great pleasure to be invited and to contribute to this well-appreciated webinar. And first of all, also congratulations from my side to IRENA to prepare all these very helpful guidelines and tools, which are very helpful not only for IRENA membership, but which should be very helpful for the whole sector. And in this regard, I think and would like to really well emphasize that all the tools which are prepared here are very relevant also to answer all the relevant questions which might come up, not only up from financiers, but also from regulators and agencies later. A few words perhaps about the Alliance first, for those who are not familiar with it. We are celebrating our 11th year of existence this year, meaning that we meanwhile comprise more than 100 members worldwide. About 100 out of these, well, members would be active in Africa, about 50%, like 50 members will be active in Asia, and about a quarter in Latin America. So we are very eager to share lessons learned, best practices from all over the world. The Secretariat itself is not an implementer. This is done by our members. So what I can do here is certainly to give some insight on how we see the best solutions coming up from the market. So how to make use of these tools as presented here, and also how they fit into the competitive environment which is out there, which is also sometimes not easy to meet. And in this regard, please also follow the IRENA newsletter, which goes out next week, normally on a bi-monthly basis. It's free of cost, and it will also show the latest results from our latest Energy Access Investment Summit held at the end of March in Lisbon. So those who would like to subscribe, please feel free to have a look at the IRENA website. It's www.ruralelec.org, and then you can see it there under news. And also when it comes to solutions, well, I come to that in a moment, where to find all these nice elements. What I would also like to say is that, of course, given, and as I think very well explained by my pre-speakers, there are a lot of aspects which need to be shown and need to be elaborated on. In this regard, also IRENA has been very active to see and how to work with its members in that sphere to make everybody somehow more successful. And Simon, if you could just zoom that little piece, yeah, that's very kind. So here I just would like to show to you how IRENA basically works. So basically, IRENA is a membership-driven association. We have a secretariat of 3 plus 1 person, and we have the board of 10 board members. In this regard, there is we then have different working groups. those working as represent the whole energy sector for decentralized energy. So it's not only mini-grids, we call it knowledge and intelligence. When it comes to the promotional aspect, well then it's the other working group. But what I said is that given that the regulatory environments and also the technologies, business models which fit and need to fit into different contexts, well, can be very different, we thought it's best to also establish working groups, one for Asia, one for Africa, one for Latin America. And then we work in 4 dimensions. The one is, and this is also very relevant, I think, to say that on the one hand, given that there is a high regulatory constraint very often for mini-grids, that the policy dimension should not be underestimated. So we help here to advocate on those elements which are relevant to make such business models work. And we also help with any requests from the private sector to private sector in terms of matchmaking, B2B, to find the right contacts in the relevant focus and core markets, and where necessary also to help on the fund and access as well as on the training aspect. Thank you. Please move forward. Yeah, as I'm now, well, the 5th speaker here, I think a number of key challenges have been well mentioned. But before doing this, I would also like to say that, of course, there is a need for organizations like IRENA who helps on many levels. There, just to also give you here some insight, because I just forgot to speak about that aspect. There is the aspect that there is the C4All initiative, which has also one very relevant platform, which is called the Clean Energy Mini-Grids Initiative. And in that regard, it comprises, well, all the leading developing organizations, plus those, well, practitioners, interested stakeholders who would like to contribute to this clean energy access solutions. This can be all found on the C4All website. It's also free, of course, to participate here. It's the UNF and ARO who co-hosts the secretariat, and IRENA is a great supporter for this initiative. There are also, sometimes there's a need to have, yeah, let's say, to show the most shining examples, and this year ARE celebrated its 2nd time the ARE Awards, and currently IRENA also contribute by Salvatore Vinci in the jury to select the best ones, and please also visit here our website to see what are the best practices when it comes to mini-grids which fit into this context. And also, as mentioned by Salvatore, it's IREC is a big conference. I hope that there will be another and more editions in the future, so every 2 years. And but coming back now to the challenges. The challenges, I think, as said, is certainly that there's a big gap between those who need electricity, clean electricity, and those who provide for it but don't have all the means at the same time. So basically, as we know from our plus 100 members, there's certainly a good understanding of available technologies, cost-efficient business models which fit into it, and we also presented just in Lisbon a new paper on well, how to empower females, how to empower women in this field, and also young professionals to work well, to get into this, to get involved and to get engaged in this field. Please also have a look here on our website on these papers. At the same time, we see, and I think that was properly addressed, it's a de-risking aspect, which is, I think personally, is the most relevant one. So anything what helps to better assess and also to better value risks in a way that they can be better well valued and priced and thereby sold to investors and financiers. I think that all helps a lot. And then I would also like to highlight one aspect perhaps not fully reflected so far in this webinar. It's the last bullet point, because as given that there are, I think, well, 800 to 1,000 participants today in this webinar, I think there will be a lot of different people with very different backgrounds, and I think wherever there is a need, we need to work more strategically together, and also need to give especially the local people and also the local renewable energy agencies some better voice and also the resources to carry out the jobs and also to enable them to well, create their lives with the help of, well, these solutions based on what we provide for. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yes. Yeah, so certainly when we look into what is the future perspective for renewable energies, perhaps the one or the other has noticed that there has been a new article of the scientific magazine called Science from the United States, where very relevant organizations like Fraunhofer Institute and NREL have contributed, and they say basically that well, thanks to the decrease of technology costs, on the one hand we had less investment, so in terms of financial value for renewables, but we had also an increase in capacity installed. And basically when we speak about the CFOL targets, of course the nice news is that we could do more than with less money in the last year, but this means also that this trend will continue, perhaps even sharper, meaning that the capacity installed, which was last year 75 gigawatt in total, might be 10 times bigger in 10 years' time. And of course, with the technologies relevant for energy access, mainly through mini-grids, we hope that these technology will play a vital role in this extension. How should this be done? Certainly the Project Navigator itself is a very important tool. I think what we hear from our membership and what we hear also from practitioners being out there, that it helps very much to easily access the information which is relevant to build up the business case. It's also very helpful to to see what are the guidelines, what is the latest status of the art, what are the practical tools, how to use them, and also, well, especially from private industry perspective, on how to better access funding. And in that regard, I think it's also important to say that, as I understood from IRENA, that these guidelines are well, sort of finalized working paper. So whoever might need to or might find out that there is a missing point, and ARE will and has contributed to this through its members. Of course, this is a very relevant way to also share latest news to make this and optimize this tool. I would like to continue with the next slide with sharing some lessons from the ground, basically, and just to see where such a navigator can lead to. And there is our member FRES, Foundation of World Energy Services from the Netherlands, represented normally by Caroline Nieland, who is the director of that organization and also vice president of ARE. And basically they are active in different countries in Africa. And what they do there is basically that they set up small-scale commercial electricity companies, and where they try to also integrate then local, well, the local components, the locals, to not only direct but also to operate, to maintain the installed solutions. Basically here the challenge was, well, how to enable energy access as such, but also on how to substitute diesel generators through different levels of solar. And perhaps you can go to the next one, please. Next slide. And you will see that, well, in total, in the Mali case, and as said, there are other levels of activities in Uganda, South Africa, Burkina Faso, and Guinea-Bissau. It was feasible to install 550 kilowatt peak, which an actual production level of 1,200 megawatt per year with 8 mini-grids. And as said, the PV penetration range is different on the site, between 50 and 100%. And as we discussed earlier, that there is certainly a very relevant number or level of well, how to best organize and structure finance. The typical approach, also promoted by ARE through its PURE concept, which is productive use of renewable energies, is that we certainly lobby for a way that the capex is mainly funded through some subsidy, while the operating costs well, should be paid through the end consumer and through the project incomes themselves. Please go to the next slide. And so the result achieved in Mali was basically that 1,160 customers switched from diesel to PV through this hybrid solution. And what the plan is basically that over this year there's well, another increase of 10% annually planned, well, for this year, but also for the future, well, to scale up this PV capacity installed. Well, this is obviously, in a nutshell, just a little insight into one of the projects I would like to propose to those who have more interest to look a bit more in detail on best practice and case studies, to also have a look at the ARE website, where you find under member solutions the ARE matchmaking platform, where you will more or less find one case in each of the countries which are in need for energy access, and also there's a good selection of best practices on the different levels of technologies, not only mini-grids but also on solar home systems, PICO system, etc. Thank you all for your attention. If there are any questions, I will be available. Thank you again.
Thank you, Marcus Wiemann, for your very interesting presentation on ARE and the case study in Mali, which is very promising. And of course, we will share on the proceedings of the webinar the relevant links and information for our participants. Our second speaker is Ms. Katrina Pieli from Power Africa. She will give an overview on the initiative and outline, let's say, what Power Africa can do for mini-grid project developments. Katrina, can you hear?
Yes, great, thank you. And thank you to IRENA for this opportunity. We're very pleased as Power Africa to be continuing our partnership with IRENA, and pleased to share some information with you as it relates to mini-grids. Next slide, please. So I'd like to begin just briefly. I think a lot of you are aware, but Power Africa has two top-line goals, and one of them is to create 60 million new household and business connections. The other is to really increase the capacity of the available power in sub-Saharan Africa by 30,000 megawatts. Next slide. The focus that I'm here to speak to you about is our effort on the off-grid connections goal. We anticipate 25 to 30 million connections will come from the off-grid. The remainder will come from on-grid. Slide 48, please. The focus of our work on microgrids is really designed to help accelerate progress and partnership towards achieving these goals. And the way we do that is through utilizing a new approach to development. We partner with 12 U.S. government agencies, 12 international donors and strategic partners like IRENA, and over 150 private sector and financier partners. We're really driven by the private sector, and we work with governments and developers and civil society to achieve these goals. Next slide, please. Within that work, we've identified a specific niche for off-grid, and it's our Beyond the Grid program. And what we focus on here is accelerating household solar and microgrids. We've estimated 8 to 10 million connections will come through microgrids. We're focusing here on community-level solutions, and we think that the support that IRENA offers through Project Navigator, Sustainable Energy Marketplace, really work nicely and pair nicely with the support that Power Africa broadly offers, and we see these as a nice suite of offerings to help accelerate activity in this sector. We focused primarily on ensuring that governments put in place the supportive regulatory and policy regimes, as you heard Salvatore mention at the beginning of the webinar. We also work directly with the private sector around accelerating and testing new business models and helping them access financing. Next slide, please. Within this work, what we try to focus on is leveraging our existing expertise. And we do that through, again, all of the partnerships that I mentioned. We also have a suite of advisors that are sprinkled across the continent that provide direct technical assistance, in addition to, again, the U.S. government agencies and our fellow international partners. So this slide provides a snapshot of the type of assistance that we provide. And again, we see this as going perhaps a step deeper. So definitely working with the users of Project Navigator. We're partnering with IRENA right now to integrate our databases through Sustainable Energy Marketplace and the Power Africa Transaction Tracker to really ensure that the developers are receiving the technical assistance that they need, access to financing, feeling like they have a good sense of where to go in terms of analysis and specific project bundling needs. I will mention here a new partnership we have with the National Renewable Energy Lab around the quality assurance framework for mini-grids, and we are looking to implement a couple of pilots in Africa with some developers to actually implement that quality assurance framework, and then also working with several governments as well. And on the government side, again, it's a nice parallel to what IRENA is offering. We're also able to offer direct technical assistance to the governments to help them make sure that what they're putting in place is going to create that environment for private sector investment. Next slide, please. The other thing I would like to make sure that folks are aware of is we did just update the Power Africa Toolbox. This is a file that provides you a comprehensive list of, well, as comprehensive as it can be at the moment, of all of the donor tools and resources for both off-grid and on-grid projects. So this includes tools from across the development finance space. It also includes specific opportunities through, again, our partners. The second toolbox is a deep dive into 13 project preparation facilities, including details on what their services are and who to contact. Those are both available at the URL you see here. And again, just to reiterate, there is such a strong link between the Navigator for us and for the constituencies that we serve, because we see the technical assistance and the resources that we provide in Africa as being a nice follow-on and a nice parallel to what IRENA is offering. The other thing that's nice is that by making sure that developers and governments know where they can go for perhaps deeper one-on-one technical assistance is very helpful to some of the users of Marketplace and Project Navigator as well. And we see that project facilitation tool and that cooperation is very important. So we very much value the partnership with IRENA and look forward to continuing to work closely with them as we look to advance the mini-grid space in Africa. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Simon.
Thank you, Katrina, for this very, let's say, a thorough presentation of Power Africa, Beyond the Grid, and what, let's say, value you propose to on the ground for developers and stakeholders in mini-grid project. Thank you very much for this. Again, all the links, all the information that Katrina presented today will be available in a short email proceeding, so you can access them directly. Thank you, Katrina. We are now handing the mic to our final guest panelist. This is Mr. Jules Smets from DNVGL Energy, who will present, let's say, some insights regarding bankability of mini-grids and a case study for a remote off-grid project in Arctic conditions. Jules, can you hear us? One second, we have a technical difficulty. Jules, you need to unmute yourself to start your presentation.
Hello. Thank you, Simon. Yes, next slide, please. Yeah, as Simon said, I'm Jules Smets. I'm working for DNVGL in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. And I'll shortly describe our company and then go into in more detail on the risk management for mini-grids. So DNVGL is quite a large company. We have 16,000 employees and we're spread around 5 different business areas, of which energy is the main relevant one in this occasion. There we have 2,500 energy experts, and we mostly focus on renewable energy projects and energy storage and microgrids. And so far we've done over 3,000 projects. And our tagline is safer, smarter, greener, which fits well in, which translates in the energy sector into mainly solving the energy trilemma that we see as finding a balance between affordability, reliability, and sustainability. And that fits really well with microgrids, as in a microgrid project you try to find this balance. And as an independent consultant, often our role is to help our customers with managing risks. And can we go to the next slide? And that's managing risk is one of the main items for making mini-grids bankable, as already mentioned several times by the other speakers. It's mostly because mini-grids are still an emerging technology, especially from the viewpoint of commercial lenders. So they perceive risks often as larger than they are or have to be. And there's several ways where these risks can be mitigated or reduced or managed. And the list here shows some of the main points, including having certainty for the revenues of the project by long-term contracts, using conservative estimates for expenses, but also for revenues that are not yet contracted. Because as the figure on the right shows, revenue streams for mini-grids can be quite complex. In a normal renewable energy project, you often have just a single power purchasing agreement with an off-taker. That's where you have, or a feed-in tariff. So you have basically one customer that's promised, where you have a contract for getting paid for the energy produced. But for a microgrid, these can be many different revenue streams, including demand charge management, payments for reliability, or supporting distribution system, offering black start capability or backup power, and all these different options make it sometimes complex to explain to the investor where your revenues will come from and to get long-term contracts. So for the non-contracted revenues, if they are included in the model, they should be estimated in a conservative way. Other items are warranties on the operating equipment, but also on the performance of the entire system. And another item is that to have an independent verification or due diligence of the project. So the lender can see a report of an independent party that shows that these assumptions are correct and that all relevant risks are identified. Can we go to the next slide, please? This is an example of a project we're currently finalizing. It's a remote community in Canada, so it's close to the Arctic, and they're currently relying on diesel diesel generators to provide the power. And we're completing a project where we replace a large part of the diesel used by a solar and storage facility. One other item is that the operation is controlled to optimize the diesel engine efficiency, and together with the energy storage, it results in long periods where the diesel generators don't need to be run. And the good thing is that this project is financially sustainable, and it reduced the emissions by 30%. And considering the continuous decrease in PV module and battery storage prices, these kind of projects will become financially feasible in more and more regions, and even 100% renewable energy will quickly become feasible. But to get these projects developed on a larger scale, more funding is required, because currently most projects are funded either by grants or government or NGO funded, or they're funded on the balance sheet of the suppliers or the EPC contractors that build the projects. And for a larger rollout, access to more capital, especially commercial lenders, would be required, and making the projects bankable would unlock the access to this capital or this funding. And DNVDL appreciates the opportunity to support this process through the work we did with IRENA on developing the technical guidelines. So we think this is a really good tool to structure proposals and make sure that the developers of smaller projects have a project that they can present to the investor or to the lender, and increase the chances of it being accepted. This is in short the work we did, and I'll be available for questions at the end of the call. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you very much, Jules, for your presentation outlining the bankability requirement of a project. I think the topic of risk is a paramount topic for mini-grids, and in the guidelines you will find a lot of information to structure how you manage, how you mitigate, and how you convince your stakeholders, financier, that you have controlled those risks over the lifetime of your project. We wanted to give you an opportunity to ask some questions. So we will give you 1 or 2 minutes to generate some questions. While people are doing this, we would like you to answer a very short question regarding the webinar and your expectations. So feel free, while people are responding, to generate and ask you questions as mentioned through the question and answer field in the webinar system. Thank you very much for answering the question on your screen. I will now close the question and we will try to answer. We had a lot of questions. Thank you very much for asking all those very relevant questions. I think we will not have the time to respond to all of them, but we'll try to, in the proceedings, to give you an overview of the key points regarding all your questions. The first question that was asked, maybe that could be relevant for our audience, is directed to Carlos Ruiz. Carlos Ruiz, the question was, what is the most critical aspect that a developer should take care while developing a mini-grid project?
Thank you, Simon. Personally, I think one of the most important things that needs to be taken into account when developing a mini-grid is getting the concept right from the very beginning. So this would mean not neglecting the early stages of the project development and making sure that the solution is the adequate one, both in terms of the configuration and the sizing, so that these match the actual needs of the site and the community. And if this is complemented with the aspects that Jules just mentioned, which were having a certain revenue and having the correct figures and having warranties and guarantees, this will basically ensure that the project is bankable and that it will be effective and that it will be a good project. So that's my answer.
Okay, thank you very much, Carlos, for this answer. We had a second question. I think we can maybe ask them to all of our guest panelists, starting with Marcus Wieman. Some of our participants asked us what were the main type of private investors active in emerging and frontier market for mini-grids.
Well, we don't map that on the member side. What we have done though is that we have made a mapping exercise a while ago together with C4All, and also thanks to Rockefeller Foundation, who helped us to pay for the working hours here. So we reached out to all organizations where we felt that they would have a strong interest to support mini-grids. That summary is also on our website when you look under Finance Access. But the specific interested parties would be difficult to say at this stage, I must admit. Certainly, I mean, the general market tendencies, I think that was well explained also by the speaker after me, is certainly that it's rather the NGOs, the donors, the European Commission in many ways, also with their much appreciated tool called Electrify. But on the commercial level, this is certainly also our own goal as ARA to get not only the developing and funding organizations involved, but rather the private banking sector, and here to enable them to better understand the value of this future market, and also to prepare the right tools for it. But I think here's still a big gap to see. While at the same time, and this was something what also, if I might quote or at least rephrase from Rachel Kite at the Lisbon event, where she said that there's so much money available, it just needs to be unblocked. And I think, well, the right tools, and we are speaking about today, guidelines, tools, are in preparation, but they are not all fully understood perhaps by those who can provide finance. So to be a bit vague on that point, but it's very difficult to track that.
Yes. Thank you, Marcus. I think Katrina also had wanted to provide some comments on this question.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I did want to offer that we have seen an increase in the number of private sector investors, including Impact and others, that have expressed an interest in the microgrid space. There was recently a new blended finance facility that was announced at the SE4All Forum in New York that Allotrope is leading, and that's focused on a few geographic areas, including East Africa. And that is something that's new and exciting. There's also many others that I think we'd be happy to talk to individual folks about offline. That's one of the services that we provide, is we can review investor pitch decks and can help introduce you to specific investors that might be looking for opportunities that you are pursuing.
Thank you very much, Katrina, for these comments on this private sector engagement issue. We had a lot of technical questions, and I think we will be able to answer the specific attendees in a summarized way at the end. One of the questions that came frequently was, what are the technologies that are supported by the mini-grids and more in general by the Project Navigator platform? And also, how can we use it offline, because we are in mini-grids, which off-grid topics. Can we use offline, in offline mode, the platform? So to answer you briefly, today Navigator is supporting 7 types of renewable energy technologies, spreading from the already established onshore winds, the solar farm, utility scale solar PV, and we have expanded into applications like mini-grid systems. We'll also have in June a webinar on solar home systems that also will be very interesting for many of the participants today. We have also done, and will publish it soon, a work on geothermal energy. So the geothermal project for power production. This also will complement some of the questions we had regarding geothermal power in a mini-grid environment. For the specific guidelines of mini-grids, we have chosen to focus on 2 types of renewable energy generations or sources. The first one is solar PV, and the second one is wind. Those are complemented with storage. You can use a different kind of storage systems, and they are backed by CHP system and boiler and backup generation. So you can combine fossil fuels with different type of CHP systems and using storage, wind and solar, which will give you already a lot of content to play with when designing your optimal mini-grid system. Another question was regarding, maybe Roland, you wanted to provide some information about people asking if we provide costing information for systems and where to get those costing information to basically prepare the project proposals.
One of the early activities IRENA started already 5 years ago is to gather costing information for different regions, for different technologies, for different renewable energy sources worldwide. And my colleague Michael Taylor here from the Innovation and Technology Center leads the Costing Alliance. And there is in our reports on IRENA Resource several documents and information available to the cost of renewable energies, but also you find a platform that is of IITC on costing, where different costs for different technologies and different regions are in detail available.
Thank you very much, Roland, for these comments. And this is, again, all available online, accessible through our www.irena.org website. One aspect that is very important for the participant today is to understand that basically those guidelines are just, let's say, a starting point. Once you have understood and internalized all those information, this is the role of the developer and its team to start the work on your specific project. So you need to go to several issues, match a lot of requirements to make your project viable and bankable. A lot of tools that are available on the platform will help you to bridge those gaps. A lot of today our colleagues from ARE, from Power Africa, from DNVGL presented you a lot of supporting mechanism that will support and help you developing the project. And I think this is really the objective, is to have a continuous support of this project and make sure that there is not a mismatch between the project you are proposing and the demand of the community. So the guidelines will be a basis where you can always come back to use and to understand how to convince stakeholders in your project. We wanted to give you a brief webinar summary that we have prepared, so you leave this webinar with the key points to start your project.
Yeah, Roland Rösch again. So we started with my colleague Salvatore Vinci from the Knowledge Policy Finance Center of IRENA. We had a look at policies and regulation for renewable energy mini-grids. We looked at legal and licensing provisions. We looked at cost recovery, a risk of main grid arrival, the measures for access to finance renewable energy projects. There was a clear message from Salvatore regarding that there is a need for tools that support project developers to obtain financing. My colleague Simon performed a platform walkthrough. He highly recommended to visit the technical concept guidelines, where you will find critical information, tools, templates and guidance to assist independent project developers in developing renewable energy projects. It became clear that the IRENA Project Navigator platform is a stepwise project to develop renewable energy projects approach. It includes a learning sections for beginners in project development to understand the needs and the requirements of banks to prepare renewable energy project proposals. We explained the interactive workspace with the tools, templates, financial models and things that are available on the IRENA Project Navigator platform, and we explained how the Financial Navigator works and what kind of information you find on the Financial Navigator to access the necessary information of who provides financial support to finance renewable energy projects. The new technical concept guidelines as introduced by my colleague Carlos Ruiz. He has gone through the mini-grid project development guidelines from identification to decommissioning. We would especially like to emphasize the development phase, which is a critical phase where the developer finalizes requirements and activities in order to approach financial close with investors and lenders. It was really clear that the technical concept guidelines for mini microgrids include help to better identify the customer needs and the site resources for mini microgrids. It was clear and made clear that there are tools that support to identify the potential risks of mini microgrids. There are tools available that help you to get a good feel on how realistic your mini microgrid project is. We support, let's say, the evaluation of the different project options that may exist for mini microgrids. And finally, let's say the tools we have with the Project Navigator help you to finalize the development of a financial mini microgrid till the financial closer. And it helps you also to achieve the desired performance of the mini microgrid. Furthermore, my colleague from ARE, from the Alliance for Rural Electrification, Mr. Markus Wiemann, made clear that 1.1 billion people are still without any access to electricity. There's another 1 billion people are lacking a stable energy and electricity supply. Also, Markus made very clear that there is a need for cooperation between the governments, the financing institutions and the civil society to give and provide access to electricity and to use tools and to improve the environment for cooperation to create more projects on the ground. Organizations like the Alliance for Rural Electrification sees clearly the benefits for a tool like the Project Navigator, and especially the technical concept guidelines for mini microgrids are very much welcome by the Alliance for Rural Electrification. Katrina Pielli, another guest speaker from USAID Power Africa, made clear what are the strategic directions for off-grid systems and what are the priorities. She spoke about the household energy supply, and she spoke about community level solutions to provide electricity to people that are not connected to modern forms of sustainable energies. Power Africa gives basically technical assistance and supports and strengthens electrification with renewable energies on the government level, but also on the private sector level. Katarina introduced the toolboxes that are offered and made available by Power Africa. Also, USAID Power Africa clearly sees the benefits of a cooperation with IRENA, and the availability of the IRENA Project Navigator platform is very welcome and clearly supports also the objectives of the organization here, Power Africa. Jules Meets from DNVGL, the consultant that supported us to prepare the technical concept guidelines, prepared and presented clearly the bankability requirements for mini-grids, for mini-microgrids, and he also spoke about solar-powered mini-grid projects in remote off-grid Arctic communities. And so I'm very happy to successfully close the well-visited webinar we had today. Thanks again to all the external speakers and the ones that provided input for this webinar. Also thanks to the IRENA innovation, to the IRENA colleagues from the Knowledge Policy Finance Center, Salvatore Vinci, and thanks to my colleagues here from the Innovation and Technology Center, to Simon Ben-Marazé, Hannes Karskat, Carlos Ruiz. And yeah, I wish you all a very nice afternoon, and we will follow up with the open questions we received from you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Roland, for this very good summary of the webinar. A few points before everyone leaves. First of all, Navigator is about feedback. We want to receive your feedback about the guidelines, the platform, and how we should proceed further. It's very important that you, participant, provide us this loop, and that's how we will improve and always deliver the right information for a renewable energy project development. So please send us feedback by email navigator@irena.org. You are invited, most invited, to register to our platform. Again, irena.org/navigator, and you will find all those information. You will be able to create a project workspace, download information, tools, look at a project evaluation model that you can today start to use for your project. And also we will provide you at the end, after the webinar, with the slides that were part of this webinar, and also all the information that was provided by our excellent and distinguished guest panelists today from ARE, from USA Power Africa, and from DNVGL. You will have all those information, and you can start to work on those. The final point is that if you liked this mini-grid webinar, we want to invite you to a future webinar on residential PV system that will be held in June 2017, so in 2 months. So you can already reserve your slot for the webinar by clicking on the link or flashing the QR code. This will be sent to you afterwards. Thank you very much to everyone today for the webinar, and we look forward to collaborate and to support project developers all around the world. Thank you very much.